Okay, so what do you need to do for the discussion? The requirements are the same for every discussion. So in Spanish, you'll post one concept or example from the day's reading that you found important or interesting and why. And for the second part of it, you have two options. You can either post a question that you have regarding a concept or example from the day's reading, or answer a question. Basically post a meaningful response to another student's question. So you have two options for how you want to fulfill that second requirement on there. And like I said, it's the same for every single discussion. So once you've done it once, it will be easy from there on out. And your post should be your own. I don't want to see a lot of significant overlap between posts, so please try to incorporate some originality. Even if someone has posted about something that you wanted to post about, find a different way to relate that material to something else that we've seen in the class or to something else that you saw in the reading. So I don't want identical posts all the way through is what I'm saying. So you will be able to read the post before posting your own. So make sure that you have added some originality if someone has already posted about a topic that you had chosen. And you've already been assigned a discussion group as well. And you can log in and do that first discussion. Well, your first discussion is for Friday, so you'll read pages 1 through 8 of your textbook, and then get onto that discussion and post something interesting, and then a response to someone else or a question for the day. And then for Friday as well, you will also have a video conversation interview with me as well. So written discussion and conversation interview, watch the videos, look at the PowerPoint, do the reading, and that's what you'll have to do for Friday. So for the rubric, as you can see, your content is 33%. I want to see that it's original and related to the day's reading, and that it's thoughtful and meaningful and contains about 3 to 5 sentences is what I'll be looking for here, but you can certainly go longer than that if you want to. Language, you have time to really to think about, unlike on the homeworks where the language that you're using might feel a little bit more rushed, so you might not have the time to really think about like noun, adjective agreement, verb tense, person agreement, etc. Well, for these discussions, since they are original and you can write about whatever you want to write about, you have a lot more time to think about it. So I want to see, so language is a component, of course, of this grade. So I will be looking for noun, adjective agreement, verb tense, person agreement, vocab choice, all of that. And then finally, completion, right? I want to see that they're thorough and that the concepts are elaborated and detailed as well. So on Canvas, you've already been on Canvas, so I'm not going to give you a tour. I assume that you understand how all of that works. I guess we can look at our Canvas site real quick here. So here's our Canvas site. As you can see, all of this information. Make sure you read through the syllabus pretty thoroughly. We've got all of the grades and everything I'm talking about today kind of laid out here as well. And this is all about the oral report, which you don't have until November, so I wouldn't worry about it at the moment. A big chunk of this is the oral report. Don't worry about that yet. And then finally, the course calendar. So get on here, look at what's due for the day, make sure just go step by step through, and you'll be in really good shape. So the syllabus tab you will need for the course calendar, your modules tab. Oops, I gotta log in again. And this is where you will find the homeworks. I haven't published these yet, so for your view, it will probably look like this for your modules. So you can see your rubrics here, and then today's work is all I have published at the moment, but for Friday for Wednesday, sorry, I'll get that module up and going ASAP here. And you'll just work through the day. Discussions. So as you can see here, this is where your reading discussions will be for each day that you have a reading, and these are your collaboration for the homework. So again, these discussions, especially for the first homework, right, to get in touch with them, you'll definitely have to participate right away. These discussions here are not for a grade. It's a way for you to organize a time and a way to meet with your group members. That's really about all that you'll need. Quizzes is where your quizzes will be located. Don't pay attention to the conversation interview, but it's what There will be a link to the conversation interviews within the modules, so you won't have to access those here. As far as your quizzes, I can put a link to those in the modules too, so you really won't need to access the quizzes tab. But if you do have a quiz or a conversation interview, it's another way to get to them outside of using the daily module. And that's about all there is for Canvas. I try to keep things pretty simple. I value simplicity, which is why the modules I think is going to be a wonderful tool just to put everything that you need to know in one place for the day. So let's see here. The conversation interviews. So I talked briefly about these already, I know, and I'm just going to ask you some basic questions regarding the most important topics from the day's reading. I'm not going to try to give you anything too detailed or obscure. It's going to be big, overarching, general. This was a big topic of the day. Tell me what you know about it, kind of thing. So probably 3 to 5 questions usually, and it's your opportunity to speak with me, so to get some speaking practice in, and it's also my opportunity to see what you know and where the confusion may lie. And to give a refresher also, to kind of focus on, have a place where we say, okay, these are the really, really big things that you needed to take away from today. So it should give you a good overview on what the most important concepts were for the day's reading, the day's lesson. And you won't have these on days when there's a homework, quiz, or presentation. I don't want to overload you with things to do. So there will be 13 total, and less than a percentage apiece. So these are not a high-stake assignment, but a good way to test your knowledge and practice with speaking. Boomerang conversations. We will talk more about this later. But the idea is you'll get on a website where you will sign up to speak with a native speaker for 15 minutes about the topic of your choice. I would like you to ask them some questions about language, but these native speakers this is what they do for a living, or for at least as a part-time profession. They're very, very kind and excellent with navigating a conversation with a non-native speaker. So try not to be nervous about these conversations. It should just be a friendly conversation about their language, what they've noticed about perhaps their particular dialect, and about their daily lives. So to give you some very authentic speaking practice as well. So more info to come on that. So again, the course calendar. What do you have to do for Wednesday? Read page 1 through 8. Study the video and PowerPoint. Participate in the written discussion. Do the conversation interview. For Monday, as you can see, next Monday you already have your first homework due. So I've given you instructions here on how to get in contact with your group and get to know them a little bit. Hopefully you guys will take some time to chat a little bit about what you study, what you do, why you're taking this class, what your interests are. I do think that forming a community, forming a classroom community, and forming those friendly relationships is really critical to having a positive experience, and really critical to your learning. As well. So do try to get to know each other a little bit and work through that homework. It's not a super involved homework. It's not even really, I don't think, terribly challenging if you've done the reading and watched the videos and really studied them. If you haven't done that, yeah, you will struggle on the homework for sure. But if you follow along with the videos and do the readings, participate in the discussions, you won't have any problem, I don't think, with the homework. All right, moving on. So do the readings. These readings are dense and data-packed. You've probably noticed that, for Wednesday, right, you only have to read pages 1 through 8. Maybe you think that that's not very much reading to do. It is. 8 or 10 pages in linguistics is very dense, very detail-oriented. I would leave aside 2 hours to do each reading, and before coming on and doing and watching the videos and participating in the discussion and other assignments. So I do recommend taking notes and highlighting as you go, which is why I recommend a physical copy of the book. And you will fall behind. I don't cover everything in the videos. They would have to be hours and hours long for me to cover all the content in the readings. So that's why it's really necessary to do the readings. I cover big important concepts in the videos, and concepts where students have traditionally had more difficulty or confusion, and so we focus more so on that and on the big picture ideas. And that goes for in class too. I don't teach the entire reading in any single class either. There's too many details, so class moves too quickly, so videos and in-class presentations don't cover everything. So again, lecture time and videos when we go back to class on the 21st. It's going to be kind of the same thing, really, except that we'll be doing the lectures in class, so you'll get to hopefully at least talk to your partners. I know we have to socially distance. We'll have to figure out how that dynamic is going to work, but hopefully at least there will be some collaborating in class, and there will certainly be more times for raising hands and asking questions, and so the class time is valuable. But the videos is the same. It's the same thing as far as the content that I'm going to cover. It won't be everything that you see in the readings. So the oral presentation, I'm really not going to talk about this right now because we have until November and you have a lot on your plates right now. I know you have all of your classes starting up online. So let's not worry about this right now, but sometime in October I will give you more information about this. So, finalmente, algunas notas finales. Communicating with me by email or phone is the best way to get a hold of me, and I have already mentioned I'm usually available from 10 to 4, and text messages are welcome. Shoot me a text if you have a question or if you want to meet with me. Y finalmente, no tengas miedo. I know that you guys are brand new to linguistics. Like, this is all going to seem very perhaps a little overwhelming and confusing at various points throughout the semester, but just bear with it, stick with it, have enough confidence to ask questions. It's perfectly normal to feel a little confused at times or a little overwhelmed until you've done some practice. A lot of what we do in linguistics, it just requires a lot of practice. So you will hit concepts where you're like, wow, I don't think I can do that. And then once we start doing it and once we practice a couple of times, you can do it. It becomes much easier. So just try to take a deep breath, step back, and get that practice. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to talk through your confusions with me as well as with your classmates. And please let me know ASAP if you need any additional accommodations for any reason, if you have any sort of a disability or anything that you want me to know about your learning style in your situation. All right, bueno, we would spend, if we were in class, si estuviéramos en clase, practicaríamos con un paquete, el paquete que está dentro de los módulos. So there is a link in your modules that says extra practice. That is what I'm talking about. So please get in there and download that extra practice, or cómo comenzar un análisis lingüístico, I think is what it's called. So looking at how do linguists look at language, some tips for studying language, and how to look at language objectively. That is something that a lot of students struggle with. Now, in all of our language classes up to this point, your teachers have told you what is right and what is wrong. And linguists don't talk about language in terms of right and wrong. We don't. We're not concerned with talking about how a language should be. We are trying to explain what we see, and based on what we see and don't see, why. So that's kind of the point of a lot of the activities that you'll see within that packet, is taking these with, this is a science class, right? This is not a humanity. We do not talk about language in terms of good, bad, correct, incorrect, or the verbs should or need. So bueno, malo, correcto, incorrecto, deber, and necesitar. Todas estas palabras, por favor, elimina estas palabras de tu vocabulario lingüístico. So please take those words out of your linguistic vocabulary. We are just looking at, observing, making observations, and hypothesizing about those observations. And we're not even going to hypothesize about those observations for this practice. For this practice sheet, one of the main goals is to talk about language using objective language. That really is an overarching theme here with the first with this practice sheet, and also in the first homework. For a lot of that first homework, that's really all I'm looking for, is can you switch your brain over and not talk about language in terms of good, bad, correct, incorrect, and talk about what is possible and what is impossible. Those are the words we are going to Those are words we're going to use a lot in this class. Objective work.